Before the video begins, it took me approximately 24 hours, 3 work days to do the header install, and I used various combinations of wrenches, both boxed in and opened in, and even some with special angles on them. Also, a lot of combinations of quarter drive, 3/8 drive, 1/2 inch drive, deep well, and then your standard sockets as well. Good luck with your install, and be sure after you finish that you let it heat up good and then go back and retighten everything. Alright, this is my 2012 Toyota Tundra. It has a 4.6 liter V8 in it, and I am putting headers on it. Alright, I'm going to crank it up and let you hear before and after. Alright, now I'm on the passenger side, and you can see the collector and then the manifold collector are separated. I had to take the exhaust down all the way to the back to be able to move the exhaust backwards so that I could pull the manifold down. I also had to push the manifold as far forward as possible, also having to take loose. This is the dipstick. I had to take that loose so that I'd have a little bit of extra room, and so now hopefully with a little bit of wiggling I may be able to get this thing down this hole and then out. Alright, I'm back, and I was not able to get the manifold down through that hole, but if you look right down here, this right here appears to be the pump for the transmission coolant system. And I don't know if your truck would have one of these or not, but that's what it looks like from under here. And I had to disconnect the bolts that hold it in place to give me just another couple of an inch or inch and a half, or 1/2 inch probably is about all I'm going to get, but that might be all I need. And so what I'm trying to do is pull it through this area right here, and I know the sun's right in the way, but there's the bottom of the manifold, and so I'm just basically trying to get it through this small hole right there. Alright, I have succeeded, and here is the difference between 4.6 V8 manifold versus the new header. And I ended up being able to pull it right out of this hole, and it went right down through there. But I had to disconnect both of the catalytic converters from here, and then I had already dropped the pipes. I know that light is terrible, but all the pipes have dropped on the truck, and I pushed the catalytic converters up out of the way so I could get them out of this hole right here. So you basically, there was no way to get it out without moving the catalytic converter out of the way. And the good thing is it had its own disconnection point right here. Alright, I have put the header in place. I do not have it all bolted down, but that's what it looks like. And as far as I'm concerned, that is awesome and mean looking. I've been waiting for 45 years to get me a truck and have headers on it. Alright, I am starting on the driver's side, and I haven't really removed anything. I did take that one bolt out of the heat shield and another out of this part of the heat shield, but boy, you can tell there is a lot of stuff in the way on this driver's side. So I will let you know what I'm having to take out in order to get this thing out of there. Alright, what it looks like, I'm going to be able to take this bolt out, and this, what I should be able to do is drop this part of the shaft out of the way in order to be able to get a little more access to that manifold. This is the steering column linkage. So we'll see how it goes. Alright, I did end up taking the whole steering shaft linkage out. It goes to the steering box here, and then it goes up inside of there to the other side. This will give me a lot more clearance to be able to get this thing out of there. It was really only 2 bolts, one here and then the one up there that I showed you earlier. Pay attention to the way this thing came out and put it back the same way to make sure that the steering wheel and the front wheels are lined up just like they were. Alright, this is part of the air the air tube system, and this is part of I think it's an emissions thing that recirculates some of the exhaust. So basically the whole the whole manifold has to come down. It has to come off and down these. It also has to come out. This has little slots right here, and then of course the studs are all along the manifold. So you really have got to do some tricky positioning to get it down, and that's what I'm in the process of right now. Alright, again, here is the old and the new, and you are going to have fun trying to get these two pieces out at the same time. Unless you take the studs out, and taking the studs out, as you well know, is really, really hard. Alright, I ended up having to remove all of the studs from the motor and the air tube and the recirculation. I forget exactly what this thing's called. It recirculates the gas somehow and reburns it in order to be able to get this header up in there. It fits rather nicely through the hole down here, but boy, when you get it up in here, over in there, it is tight. So anyway, I'm going to get it in there now. Alright, that was just open headers. I have not put my pipes back on, so I just wanted everybody to be able to hear what it sounds like with just plain headers. I am fixing to crank it up for the first time. Alright, I had to come back, and obviously you want to, by the directions, you want to crank the truck and let it get hot. I actually have driven mine for several days, and then you got to come back and tighten everything back down. However, the problem is you can't get to the regular nuts, and so what I did is I went and got these 8mm coupling nuts, and because this tube right here is so in the way, and you can't see that hole, but the hole is right here, and there's just no room to get a wrench of any kind, socket or anything around it. So when I got these, it actually pushed the nut out far enough that I believe I'm going to be able to get a good bite on it. There are 2 other ones that are back, the second and the third one, that I've already put those coupling nuts on, and they worked really well. Of course, it's still really hard to get to, but at least I was able to tighten them down. And this is on the driver's side. The driver's side is much more difficult than the passenger side because your steering column and the fuel lines, they're all in the way. This brake assembly here is kind of all in the way, and so it just makes it a lot harder to get to. I also went ahead and put the heat shield back on, but I had to kind of flatten it out in order to get it in there because it's so tight, and those fuel lines are right there, so I did not want the heat to transfer Obviously the header is here and the collector is here, and the fuel lines are literally only about 3 inches away. It also has this other little piece here that comes up, and you can put it around this hose here, and I actually put a zip tie around to try to keep it up where it's supposed to be. These coupling nuts, they come like this, but I actually had to grind it down so that you would be able to, so I'd be able to get this in there around that little hose. Not a hose, it's the air tube is what it is, this little piece right here. It's so close to the hole that you just can't get anything in there, and you certainly can't get a wrench on it once you do get it in there. So this whole process of getting these coupling nuts, it was a lifesaver, but I forgot to show you that I had ground this one down quite a bit in order to get it in and around that hole. And that concludes the video. So I basically have put on headers, got catalytic converters and string pipes.